Right, well, here I am in sunny Switzerland, up in the mountains, playing the Swiss Open Championships. I'm top seed, so I really should do reasonably well, but I've dropped a couple of draws. I'm now going to have a look at a very brief look, so I've got other things I've got to be doing, but just going to quickly go through today's game, and it's just a short video, so this will probably be under 10 minutes, probably well under 10 minutes actually. So today I was black, so I had another French. I was playing Nuri, and yeah, it was a very interesting game actually. You have to excuse any noise there is. That'll either be the cars or other things going on. But let's get on with the game anyway. So the game started e4, e6, d4, d5. Now opponent played knight to c3. Now I think this is probably the most critical way of meeting the French. I normally play bishop to b4 here, but I was a bit concerned that after this move I saw my opponent has played e takes d5 here, and after e takes d5, okay, I mean there's still a lot of play left in the position, but it's quite hard to win this position for black. You have good chances, but my opponent seems to know this position quite well, so I decided after knight to c3 to keep the tension a bit more and play knight to f6, which I rarely play. And now he continued bishop to g5, and now I played the idea of Morzavich. So I took on e4, knight takes e4, and I went bishop to e7. My opponent took on f6 with bishop, and now I took back with my pawn. So this is Morzavich's idea. Well, the next move is really Morzavich's idea, and this is very interesting. Okay, I mean I've got two bishops here. I've got the one on e7, one on c8, so that's one advantage I have, but I'm slightly cramped here. These pawns can either be strong or weak. I mean, my king now is going to find it hard to find a very safe haven, because if it goes kingside, obviously there's this horrible open line that white can maybe attack me on. But it's quite a dynamic opening, so at least it leaves me a decent winning chances. So knight to f3 is what my opponent played, and now Morzavich's idea a6. Now, the general idea of this is to play a bit like Michael Basman and get your b-pawn rolling. So you want to go b5, and then you often put your bishop on b7. So it's quite an interesting opening. My opponent now played very quickly here. I was surprised at the speed he was moving, so I haven't really played this opening before. Didn't seem to shock him at all. I think he was more interested in speaking to his friends, having a little chat, maybe about more interesting things in life, more interesting than chess. Well, it's doubtful, I suppose. So anyway, bishop to d3, and now I played f5. So I thought it was useful to immediately attack his knight on e4. The knight now dropped back to c3. Now this was I searched this game afterwards, and it's only been played once before actually, but I think this knight to c3 is a very underrated move. I mean, knight to g3 has been played a couple of times, when maybe black's best move here is actually something like h5, which leaves a very unique and interesting position. But knight to c3 is much more dynamic because it supports the d4 push, d5 push, which is going to attack my central pawn structure and try to open up the e-file against my king. Not my bishop, my king. So knight to c3 is an interesting idea. Well, I just responded with knight to c6, attacking the pawn on d4, and now my opponent played the most critical move, queen to d2. So he's playing very interesting chess, and I think he's just making this up as he goes along. So obviously I was as well. I don't want to take on d4, because after knight takes knight, queen takes d4, there's a typical bishop to b5 check, unleashing his queen and my queen on d4, so I have to avoid that. So okay, put my bishop on f6, now my opponent just castled. So quite a good plan he's come up with here. I took on d4, and now I played queen to e3. And I think I actually prefer white's chances here already. My opening has gone slightly wrong. I mean, he's well developed. He's got this nice d-file against my queen, and my king's still stuck in the middle. So it hasn't been a real success this opening, but still very interesting. Now, I came up with an interesting idea where I'm one pawn up here, but I found a way I could sacrifice 3 pawns. Yeah, 3 pawns to get a bit of an attack going, and also I like playing with initiative, so I thought my next plan was worth a go. Well, I went c5, reinforcing the knight on d4. My opponent now played bishop takes f5, taking use of some pins on the e-file and d-file. You see the pawn can't take it because my king, the knight can't take it because the rook takes queen check. Went queen to e7. My opponent now moves bishop to e4, and now I play bishop to d7. So, given one more move, I'm going to be fine here. I can just castle queenside, and I've got good control of the central squares then. So, my opponent really has to grab the bait on b7. So, bishop takes b7. I went rook to b8, and now bishop takes a6. Now, when I originally went into this line, I knew the computers wouldn't like this position, but I thought I had pretty decent chances here. Well, it's very unbalanced. I was quite happy with this kind of messed up position because I've got an open b file to attack along, and my bishop on f6 might also come in handy attacking the pawn on b2, so I've got decent attacking chances here. So yeah, an interesting position anyway. And okay, I'm probably going to castle kingside when my king could probably tuck away on h8 with a good position. Now, probably what I should have done here was just castle kingside. And okay, I mean, I'm sure I'm worse here, but it's just a very murky position. I am 2 pawns down, but you know, still this position leaves a lot of interesting possibilities because I just want to double up on the b file, and at some point I'm going to probably get some threats against the white's king. So a bit unbalanced, but I expect white is better here. But I came up with another idea here. I played queen to d6. Now, this was a very interesting idea. I got attracted to one variation. I mean, I saw how the game was going to finish here. I saw that if my opponent played what he did in the game, I'd have a forced draw. But I expected I'd have a win in the final position. But in the end, I took a draw because I couldn't see the win. Now, I think my opponent's best move here, I don't like this queen d6 actually. I mean, my general idea here is to move the queen over b6 with some route 1 tactics against white's king. But my opponent now played knight to e4, which is very complicated. But I was more worried about bishop to c4 here. And if queen to b6, then I think the bishop can actually drop back to b3, because it's not easy for me to get any c4 breaks going, because my knight on d4 is very weak. And white's now threatening to throw his knight into my position, knight to d5 or knight to e4. So I think this is a good way that white could play for a win. But after queen d6, my opponent played knight to e4. And now this is where it gets quite interesting. An interesting little combination now. Knight to e2 check. So releasing the bishop on f6 against the pawn on b2. And white has to take his queen on e2. I quickly calculated also king to b1. Then I was going to continue rook takes b2 check. King to a1. And now here I think I've got rook takes a2 check. I've had some other possibilities, but this is a move I was probably going to play. Now after king takes, queen takes bishop check, and if queen to a3, then at the worst have queen to c4 check, and I could pick up the knight on e4. And white's king is going to be, well, basically running to a mating attack here, so he doesn't want to go for that. So after knight to e2 check, he played queen takes e2, bishop to b2 check, king to b1, and here I had to think for about, I don't know, about half an hour here, and I couldn't see anything better than the draw I took in the game. In the game I went queen takes a6, which led to a perpetual check after queen takes a6, and now bishop to a3 check, king to a1, bishop to b2 check, etc, etc. Now if we go back to the critical position after king to b1, I assumed that I might have something better here, but I don't have anything better. I mean, let's just look at a couple of variations. For example, if I go, he's always got this bishop to b5 counter block, which is his main escaping move. Very complicated position, but I think white's just defending. For example, let's say I go bishop to g7, check, unleashing the rook here. Well, obviously white's now got a block with his bishop on b5, and the problem is if I ever take on b5, he's got knight takes d6, which is a check. And let's say I go move my queen on d6, queen to a6, well then he goes knight to d6 check anyway. And after something like king to f8, he just goes c4, and he's basically plugged up most of his holes. So a complicated position after king and b1, but I just couldn't find anything here. I mean, another possibility was bishop d4 check, and now bishop to b5 again has to be played, and now queen to a6, and at least this time he can't go knight to d6 check, because my bishop's blocking the rook down to d6, but he can just go knight takes d4. And one variation run, c takes d4. I looked at one very nice move, I go bishop takes b5 here. I was worried about knight to d6 check. A bit crazy, but after queen takes d6, he goes knight takes b5, and he's winning here. So, yeah, another annoying position. After knight takes d4, c takes d4, you can play c4 here, and the resulting position is just about okay for him. So, yeah, an interesting game, but after this bishop takes b2, I really couldn't see anything better than going queen takes a6 and taking the draw. So, a bit of a disappointing finish, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes you have to take the draw, otherwise you're going to lose, and obviously a draw is better than losing. So that's that game. I'll try to obviously finish a bit of Surge now. Good to see I've had 3 very interesting games in the French. Whoever says the French is a defensive, boring opening is obviously not right, because you can play in lots of different styles, and I think this game just proves that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. Please feel free to leave as many or no comments. Up to you.